In today's video, we're going to be going over mounting monsters, how to do it, what to do when you're on the monster, and what to do if you're in a party and a monster is mounted by someone else. The do's and the don'ts. So let's get started. Typically speaking, the best way you're going to get a mount is by jumping off your sacred with X and then hitting triangle or R2 depending on your weapon. And usually this takes about 2 attempts to actually land the mount. Lower rank monsters, you can do this in 1 jump, but you know, higher rank typically takes about 2 jumps to get this going. Now, the first thing I want to go over is mount cooldown. Once a monster has been mounted, it takes a bit to be able to mount it again. Think of this as an internal cooldown that you really can't see. The more you keep trying to mount via doing jump attacks, the shorter this cooldown will be. Generally speaking, after you get 1 mount on a monster, give the fight about 3 to 5 minutes before trying to mount it again. This way you're not spamming jump attacks, calling out your sacred, doing another jump attack over and over and over again. Now, these numbers aren't pinpoint accurate, mind you, but in general, this is what I find to be the best way to go about things. Some results may vary depending on the monster, as well as also what gear you have on, which I will go over later in the video, but try not to spam mounts over and over and over again. Now, I'm going to slow this video down just a little bit so we can really see what happens during a mount. Now, the 2 biggest things you need to pay attention to are your stamina, the yellow bar underneath your health bar, and a black border outline. This indicates when the monster is trying to throw you off. Now, I'm going to showcase this so you know what it looks like, but whenever you see this black border happen, you need to flick your left joystick or whatever it is you use to move around on the monster to a different location, or hold R2 to brace. I typically flick the stick to go somewhere else. Now, this is the black border outline I was talking about. I freeze framed this so you could actually see it for yourself what it looks like. Basically, the border of your screen is going to start dimming and going black. This is the indicator for you to flick your stick, go somewhere else. Or, like I said, hold R2 to brace. Either or, you need to get away from that location that you're currently on. Now, as we continue to play it, you see that I jump to the head and just start attacking with triangle. That is, if you can look in the top right, you see all the controls that you can do while mounted. I like to use triangle for the strong attack. I feel like it does more as far as wounding the enemy. But, you know, quick attacks work as well, the light attacks. But as you can see, as I'm mounted on this monster, every time I see the screen go dim, I instantly go to a different location and continue assaulting the monster. You want to hit it with triangle over and over. You'll eventually see, or even hear, the wound start to happen. Now, when you see a red dot like this, or the red wound on a part, okay, that part's done. You need to move on to the next. So we're going on here, going towards the back, working on the back, and then working on the tail now. Since we got 2 wounds, our goal at the end of the day, get 3 wounds and hit R1, knock the monster down. Now, in this particular situation, we actually get 3 wounds, but I believe since it took so long, we didn't get a chance to use our R1 attack. It just kind of kicks us off. This part's a little inconsistent and seems to happen at random, but I do believe it has something to do with stun buildup, possibly. I'm not 100% sure, though, and it happens kind of randomly or pretty rarely even. If anyone knows, let me know in the comments below. Now, as this plays out, let's just reiterate what we just went over. 2 things you really need to pay attention to. Your stamina, again, the yellow bar underneath your health bar. If you run out of that, you're going to lose your mount and you can't remount it for a bit. That's the cooldown thing that was mentioned earlier. Also, your friends are going to hate you for it, so don't let it happen. It's bound to happen eventually. You're going to lose your mount learning it, but that's fine. Just learn and try your best. Also, when the monster is attempting to throw you. So this is going to do heavy stamina damage if you don't get out of that position, out of the bad position in time. It won't automatically just lose the mount. It takes some time to do it. But whenever you see the screen start to turn black around the borders, that's your cue. Move out of the way so you don't drain your stamina so much. Now let's watch an example with the hardest monster in the game, Chatacabra. So what we're going to do, we're going to initiate the mount. Try it once, didn't get on. Call our sacred back out. By the way, any jump attack will work. You don't have to do the sacred thing. We finally get our mount. What's our plan? Keep spamming triangle. See the black border, bounce to the other position. Keep spamming triangle until you open as many wounds as you possibly can on a monster. Chatacabra has 2 weak points that you can open. We open our weak points here. We're done. We hit R1 and we finish the job. In glorious fashion, I may add. Now, remember what I said earlier about taking out the wound on the back because it's hardest to reach typically? This is why. Because then you can follow this up. Say, like in this example, we had the wound on the head. It's a lot easier to hit. Now, on bigger monsters, this is a bigger problem. But just to showcase it on what it looks like on a Chatacabra, there you go. We took out the wound on the back because typically that's the harder one to reach. All right, now let's go over some things that you need to know. Mounted monsters can still attack and cart onlookers, so don't stick around too close. Also, in line with that, mounted monsters, if you're not the one that's mounted, you're on the outside watching, they have roughly 50% damage reduction. So what this means is that when a monster is mounted, don't go blowing all of your high damage big hits all at once. Wait until the monster is down from a successful mount and then make it hurt. What I do with Switch Axe, for example, I build up my gauges to max and then I get ready to bring the damage when the monster is finally downed. Now, lastly, let's go over a little hunter etiquette. So there are things to do and things not to do whenever you're watching someone mounting a monster. One thing you don't do is use environmental objects to bring a monster down while it's mounted. Now, this can be fun with friends, but if you're playing with people you don't really know, you're only going to make them angry by ruining their mount, basically, taking it away from them. So boulder drops, vine traps for things that are like on the ground. These are things these are big no-nos. Don't really do these when someone else has mounted a monster. Just kind of stick back and wait. Also, don't lay down shock traps, especially if something's like running around. Don't try to trap the monster. You'll ruin the mount. This goes for pitfall traps as well. You don't want to do this. You're only going to end up frustrating your fellow hunters. One more thing that you don't want to do is to wound or attack the wounds that have been created. You also don't want to flash the monster. It's going to ruin the mount as well. Don't flash it away. So with these things in mind, these are like the basics you don't need to do whenever someone else is mounted. You don't want to ruin their mount and ruin extra damage that they're trying to work for here. Just sit back, get ready to do the damage when the mount is finished, and call it a day. That's all you got to do. Now, earlier I was mentioning some decorations that would help with mounting. Weakness Exploit and Part Breaker are two of the better things for more damage. And Master Mounter, well, makes it easier to mount. So this is another thing with scaling prowess you can get from, I believe, Rathian pieces and stuff of that nature. And that's it. Now you're on the way to being a Master Mounter in Monster Hunter Wilds. If you learned something from this video or enjoyed it, hey, toss out a like and a subscribe. It helps us smaller creators get our content known, and I would really appreciate it. But with that said, thank you for watching, and good luck on your hunts.